this thing working? Give me some sound, baby.
Yeah.
The Out of Bounds Show is powered by the award-winning golf courses at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Well, good morning. Welcome into the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. It is Masters Week. You're excited. We're excited. And the biggest golf tournament in the world, Augusta National. My guest has been many a times that's live in studio, Benji Nelson. I've been once. I've told you all the story over and over again, how cool it was for me. And that it trumps the Super Bowl, the Final Four, College Football National Championship, NFL Draft, which was even better than I thought, too, in Vegas, and the CWS Championship Series. But I don't even play golf. And going to Augusta National and going to a Friday round 5 years ago, it's the best sporting event I've ever been to. And there was I wasn't in a suite. There are no suites, which is weird when you walk in. So, but it is the coolest sporting event I've ever been to, and I hope all of our listeners have an opportunity to go. This is ESPN 105.9 The Zone. The show is brought to you by Ben Nelson Golf and Outdoor. We welcome in Benji Nelson. Benji, good morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm great. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
How was Augusta this week?
Man, it was great. I mean, it never disappoints. That's for sure. That's for sure. So we were able to go on Monday and get to walk around, which I think is a great day to go. You know, because it's very relaxed and you're just able to kind of walk around and soak it all in and see some players. The players are relaxed. They're not in go mode yet. They're just kind of getting comfortable and it's a fun day to go.
Yeah, it's kind of the rev up to the. Right? They kind of rev themselves up over a few days.
That's right.
So you grew up, I mean, all you've ever known is golf. You've
Pretty
grown
much.
up
Yeah.
in the world of golf because of your dad, Ben Nelson. And now, obviously, y'all have Ben Nelson Golf and Outdoor. But I want to start with Live Oaks. Tell me the story.
So my dad got in the golf business in the late 60s working for Johnny Stahl at Vicksburg Country Club. And he was his assistant golf professional over there. Robbie Webb from Canton connected the two of them. And he worked for him for a couple of years. And Mr. Stahl and a man named L.C. Latham, they were coming to Jackson to build a golf course. And they tapped my dad to be their head professional. So Live Oaks opened in 1969. And I was born in 1970. And for those that are listening that remember the old clubhouse. Yeah. I was their apartment was in that clubhouse where the pro shop kind of area was. That was their apartment. And when I was born, I lived in a little closet in the back and we were there for a couple of years before we built, my parents built the house behind 14 Green, that you can't even see today, okay. But that was our house and that's where I grew up.
Okay. So that's the first place that you lived.
I lived
Live
there.
Oaks Golf Club.
Yep, lived there till the 87 when I was a senior in high school. My dad, Mr. Latham died. My dad began to buy in a little bit over time. So when Mr. Stahl sold to Norman Agent in 1986, I think it was. And Dad went to work for the PGA Tour as a rules official. He'd gotten involved with rules as being part of the PGA of America and worked PGA championships and Ryder Cups and different events like that. And when they sold Live Oaks, there was a perfect timing and opportunity for him to go to work for the tour. We moved to Madison my senior year of high school, and it was great. So
okay, so Benji Nelson on the Out of Bounds Show and the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line, Ben Nelson Golf and Outdoor. So you go from Live Oaks Golf Club, and then your dad goes to work full-time for the PGA Tour.
Right.
How many weeks a year was he on the road?
Yeah, so he about 30-ish weeks a year. And what would happen is they would go out in stretches, so he would be gone anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks at a time. And would go from tournament to tournament, and then they'd come home and he'd be off sometimes just a week, sometimes 2 or 3. But it worked out. They would be about 30 weeks a year. He, got started with the tour in '86, and in '91, I believe, he became, I guess, one of the head rules guy. There were 2 of them. So at each event, you would have to have one guy that's really in charge of the competition. And what's funny is the tour had 2 of them, and both of them were from Mississippi.
Really?
Yeah. So my dad and Arvin Ginn was the other. So
I did not know that.
yeah.
Okay. So what was the most controversial, or, was there a 3rd or 4th round of golfers, not sure what's going on type deal where the tour official has to be brought in and make the call either in a major or a big tournament?
And I wish he was here to tell more of those stories. I mean, one that just sticks out in my mind. I remember he had to deliver the news to Greg Norman that he'd been disqualified from a tournament for playing a non-conforming ball. And I just remember that in my mind, the press conference, the 2 of them up there and having to explain the rule. And Greg was actually very gracious about it, and as most tour players are, they play a gentleman's game and play by the rules, and with rare exception that they all take it very well.
Benji Nelson on the Out of Bounds show. How many years was he with the PGA?
So he retired from the regular tour in 2003. And then,
so he caught the Tiger magic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He was part of Tiger's run. And he left the tour in 2003, stayed out for about a year, and they called him back and said, "Hey, we need somebody to run the Champions Tour until you can find a successor." He went out and ran the Champions Tour for 3 years and hired Brian Clare to take his spot.
Okay.
So he retired again and completely retired in 2008.
And y'all started Ben Nelson Golf and Outdoors in 2001.
Yeah.
So he went back. By
Yep.
then you're in.
Yeah.
And so he goes, you
Yeah. So, I was actually working for Easy Go at the time corporately.
Okay.
And they came to us and said, "Hey, we need a dealer in Mississippi. Would you guys be interested in doing it?" And of course I was all in, but I didn't have any money. So,
I'm in.
So I had to get a partner, that believed in me, and the only one I could find was my dad. So, So
I think it worked out.
Yeah, we've managed to make it. So.
Okay. Yeah. And started in the little place out on Lakeland Drive.
Started on Lakeland Drive, and was there, which is a great place to get started. We just had 3 employees, and managed to go. And we just were responsible for the golf courses in Mississippi.
Right.
Selling retail was just kind of becoming a thing, but the golf courses was really what drove the engine. We moved out to Pearl, and we built a new building over in Country Place in Pearl moved in there in 2007.
Did a remote at both.
Yep. And then we moved to Gluckstadt in 2018.
Okay. And I've done a remote there. So could you see, I want to get back into, you played at Mississippi State, but real quick, could you and your dad see your business and what was happening on the tour with Tiger?
Oh,
I mean, I feel like y'all captured it at the right time. He comes on the scene in 97. He starts winning. The game changes. The money starts coming into the sport. It becomes cooler. TV ratings are growing. Did y'all kind of see that with Ben Nelson Golf and Outdoors?
Well, I don't know that I could compare us to Tiger, but I mean, you could definitely see, we definitely caught it at a good time.
Right.
And just kind of rode the wave a little bit, and the things that have changed in our industry in golf cars and PTVs and utility vehicles becoming a more common and accepted way to get around. And it's kind of become more of a lifestyle product as opposed to just a golf only product.
Have you heard your dad talk about stories pre-Tiger, post-Tiger on the tour? Because I think some people forget that are younger, these guys weren't jet setting.
No, not at all.
I mean, they're all,
no,
the
not
top
at all.
150 make over 7 figures.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of them make millions and millions.
That's right. So, yeah, I mean, I can remember, when the standard kind of a common purse on tour was $1 million, and the winner would get 18%. So the winner on a tour event would get $180,000, and it was the top 30. I remember it being a big day when the top 30 had $1 million in earnings, and now, I mean, that's nothing.
Right. And that's Tiger in 97. Boom. All right. So Benji Nelson on the Out of Bounds show, you're growing up in golf. It's all you know. Your dad owned a golf course, then goes to work for the PGA. Y'all eventually get in the business again. You played golf at Mississippi State?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I was there from 88 to 92, and had a great time. And we had little success. We played in the NCAA finals in 91.
Nice.
Doug Barron was actually on our team who has won a few times here on the Champions Tour here lately. So he was on our team, plus some other guys that were really good players. And Watt Wally's still around here, and some guys from Chad Ginn grew up with me at Live Oaks. He was on that team.
I know, Chad. So what was, tell us what it was like to play SEC golf in the late 80s, early 90s. There's obviously a ton of money in the Southeastern Conference now.
Yeah.
A little bit different.
Well, it was definitely different.
You didn't have that golf facility by Mossy Oak.
No, not at all. We had a much more relaxed atmosphere around our team, and we'd go hit balls for a little bit. I mean, there was no such thing as mandatory workouts at 6 a.m.
Right.
or study hall every day for freshmen. There was show up, hit some balls, play golf, qualify,
right.
Go to some tournaments, and it was good. I mean, and there was a lot of talented kids. I mean, players at that time. I mean,
sure.
Phil Mickelson's my age, so
he was at Arizona State.
He was at Arizona State.
Yeah.
So when we made the finals in 91, and we played at Poppy Hills, which is out by Pebble Beach. It's in that Pebble Beach area. And back then there wasn't a driving range, a practice facility at any of the courses. They used a polo field that was there, and they would do it for whenever the U.S. Open would be there, or the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. They just mow out this polo field, and that's what we used. So it was really big and expansive, and I kind of felt a little out of place, and said, you know what, I'm going to go down here to the far end, where nobody else can watch me hit balls, and I'm just going to hit from down here. And,
right.
And I'm down at the far right end, and all of a sudden somebody comes up and dumps a bag of balls, and it's Phil, because he's left-handed, and he's hitting from the other side, and I'm like, oh man, this isn't going to be good.
Did you know who he was?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and all it took was him hitting about 3 or 4 shots, and his ball made a different sound than mine. And
golly,
I hit a
Benji.
few planks, and I said, I'm out of here. So I left.
Even in Alan Shipnuck's book last year on Phil, he talked about he was brash, cocky, and everybody knew he was unbelievable, even at Arizona State.
No question.
Okay. So, and could you kind of feel the ego?
Oh yeah. I mean, he's Phil's Phil.
Yeah.
I mean, he was different.
When was all right, so you do that for 4 years at Mississippi State,
Mm-hmm.
and it had to be a great experience.
It was.
What was the most fun, I guess, in the SEC footprint, Benji?
Mm-hmm.
What was the most fun tournament that you can remember playing in?
There were some good ones. I mean, the tournament that, so my son is now actually coaching at Augusta University.
In Georgia.
In Georgia, yep. He's the assistant men's golf coach there. He graduated from state. He was on the team there as well. But the draw, we actually played in that tournament at Forest Hills, where they play it today. And the neat thing about that event was your tee gift for playing in the tournament on the Saturday and Sunday before Masters Week was tickets to the Masters. So we got to go on that Monday in college and walk around, and that was a really cool experience. And that was to see these kids doing that again this year. I mean, that was fun to see.
Okay. So this is sometime 88 to 92 when you did this.
Yeah.
And your dad's on the tour by 87 as a PGA Tour official.
Yep.
Had you been to the Masters because of him prior to that, or was as a Mississippi State college golfer, was that your first time?
No, the first time I went, my dad took me, and he was still at Live Oaks, and he and a friend of his, and then he took me and another junior golfer from Live Oaks. We went over and went to one of the practice rounds. I think we went to the Wednesday practice round.
Okay.
Because I remember seeing the par 3 tournament for a little bit. So that was my first time.
Okay. And then you get to play in an Augusta tournament, and you get to go over there on Monday. Not a bad deal.
No,
Benji
that wasn't a bad deal.
Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Benji Nelson, Ben Nelson Golf and Outdoors joining us on the Out of Bounds show. Their place in Madison, Gluckstadt, also in Tennessee. So, how did Ben Nelson Golf and Outdoors come about in 2001? When was the first time you and your dad? So you were with Easy Go.
Yeah.
Your dad's on the tour.
Yep.
When was the first time y'all said, we're going to roll?
Yeah. So we had always envisioned trying to get into business together of some kind, and didn't really know what that was going to look like, whether that would be another golf course or, and we'd had a couple of opportunities to do something along those lines, but they just weren't the right opportunities. And I was working for Easy Go, and they,
was that your first job out of college?
No,
Okay,
I'd had a couple others, but all in the golf industry. So I was working for them as a salesman selling to golf courses in Mississippi, and they just said, we really need a dealer. Would y'all be interested in doing it? And it was, kind of a quick decision, and happened really fast, and got started.
What separates Easy Go golf carts from the competition?
So, great question. First of all, Easy Go, they were founded in 1954, so they've been doing it a long time, longer than anybody else out there today. And they're owned by Textron. Textron is a conglomerate that owns Cessna aircraft, Bell helicopter.
Nice.
They know how to manufacture products. They're American made, right there in Augusta, employ Americans, pay American taxes, do all those kinds of things. They're just a great company. But they've also been a leader in innovation. And right now the big move in our industry is lithium batteries, and being able to partner with Samsung, and they're really the leader in that industry.
When did you and your dad realize that the lifestyle component was going to come into play on golf carts?
Yeah. So, like I said, our timing was really good. In the early 2000s, we were doing that, and we were mostly selling to people that wanted it for their land, or
Right.
we're selling it for commercial applications, whether it be a college campus or a hospital or car dealership, or, anybody that had a big piece of property to maneuver. As developers began to, like a Reunion, for example, in those
Sure.
types of neighborhoods, where they became golf cart friendly, and you started seeing this, kind of scattered all over the country, and predominantly in the Southeast. But, the mid to late 2000s is really kind of when you saw that wave begin to move.
So it was 4 or 5 years in.
Yeah, that's about right.
And it takes, you mentioned like neighborhoods like Lost Rabbit, Reunion, and so on, but I had not thought about manufacturing facilities too, which you just referenced.
Yes.
These huge, spacious places that need people to roam around.
Yeah. So our like I said before, our main engine, is the golf courses and selling fleets. And we've grown, when we started with just Mississippi, now we've got a footprint for golf responsibility that's Mississippi, Louisiana, most of Arkansas, and West Tennessee.
Okay.
So that's kind of our footprint now. And then we've got retail stores in Madison, Biloxi, and Memphis. And while certainly the consumer aspect of it is huge, but the commercial opportunity and the things we do with commercially is equally as important. The Cushman brand is part of the Easy Go family of products.
Okay.
So we sell that as well.
If I'm a first-time golf car buyer, Benji, what should I be looking for? I walk in Ben Nelson Golf and Outdoors today.
I think the first thing that if you don't know anything about golf cars and you just know you want one for the neighborhood, and you're looking on Facebook or the internet or wherever, the first thing I would be looking for is the reputation and the history of the manufacturer and the dealer. I think, the ability to have the confidence to know that that both the manufacturer and the dealer are going to stand behind the product, if I ever need support down the road. And for anybody that's ever bought any type of vehicle or electronic device, you're going to need help at some point in time. And, we've seen products come and go and brands come into play and then disappear a few years later, mainly because they weren't able to support the product, and so there's some good brands out there. I would definitely, proud of the EasyGo brand and the history we have. But that's the first thing that I would look for is who can they support what I buy?
EasyGo out of Augusta, Georgia. Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We're visiting with Benji Nelson, Ben Nelson Golf and Outdoors, and they are right there in the Gluckstadt, Madison area. And by the way, y'all built a beautiful dealership.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks great. Blake Scott, you want to jump in here?
Well, I feel
we've got about 2 minutes here.
I feel
with
I would
Benji.
be remiss to not ask someone who obviously knows a lot more about golf than I do, who your favorite or favorites are to win the Masters.
Oh, for this year?
Yeah.
So I love the way Rory's playing. I mean, I think he birdied in the Dell match play his last tournament up. He birdied his last 2 rounds, or he birdied over a third of the holes. So I mean, he's on fire. He's hitting the ball really well. John Rahm has had a heck of a start to the season and is playing really, really well. I hadn't really seen much of the live guys. I mean, I do like Cam Smith. I think he can. He's really good and still playing very, very well.
He's got some personality.
Yeah, he does. The mullet. And
then we'll see what Brooks Koepka does this week. That was another one our listeners were on, as far as betting odds and maybe looking at that. All right, tomorrow, Blake, put this on. Look what Benji Nelson brought. We're giving away a Masters flag, 2023 Masters flag, compliments of Ben Nelson Golf and Outdoors. And we'll right out of the chute, we'll let you know how to jump in to enter to win. But that's going to look great in someone's man cave or game room or even office, or you could give it to a client and they'll love you forever. Spend even more money.
Just the spot in my house that's going to look so perfect.
You told me that earlier. Well, Benji, we're going to do this again in a month or two, but thanks for dropping by. You've been on the show before when we've been live on remote, but this was a lot of fun as far as the family history and how we got to Ben Nelson Golf and Outdoors in the Gluckstadt, Madison area.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun. Look forward to the next one.
Powered by EasyGo Golf Cars. Ben Nelson Golf and Outdoors. Benji Nelson on the show. If you missed it or any of the show, you can go to Apple Podcast or Spotify, search Out of Bounds with Bo Bounds. So tomorrow's round 1. That'll be fun. It'll be on while we're on the show, and we'll see how everybody gets kicked off. Maybe Tiger will make the cut. That'd be pretty cool for Saturday and Sunday. For Benji Nelson, Blake Scott, I'm your host, Bo Bounds. Enjoy the day, and we'll be back tomorrow. Round 1 of the Masters, brought to you by Ben Nelson Golf and Outdoors in Gluckstadt, Mississippi, and also in Tennessee. See you tomorrow.